My name is Donna Wiggins. I'm 47 years old, and I was sexually abused by my mother's first husband, my stepdad, and I was also sexually abused by my mother's second husband. I was sexually abused around the age of maybe 6 or 7. It was like I woke up from a dream. I was sexually abused by my mother's first husband, and what I remember in the first instance I remember of the sexual abuse was him telling me to go get ready. I did exactly what he told me to do. I kind of figured it wasn't the first instance because I automatically went back to the bathroom in the back of the house. I got a pillowcase and I got on the commode, waiting for me to come in. I undressed from the bottom down, the panties as well. I put the pillowcase over my head and I would wait for the footsteps. I just remember it being so painful. And I knew my little brother and sister, they were in the front of the room sleeping. And I just remember having to be quiet so that I wouldn't wake them up. So he would get Vaseline and I would be on the commode and he just kept penetrating. Didn't care how bad it hurt. But I just remember the pain being so bad. But I knew him as my father at that time. So my father, he wasn't in the picture then. But after that, my sister and brother, I guess they woke up one night and they told my mother that they said Dad has been messing with Donna. So after that, we moved out of the house and he was brought to court. Charges were pressed. That was the second time that I actually saw my real father, my biological father, because he came to court with him. And we did the, where they take the child to the investigation room. So we went there and I remember telling what happened. And it seemed like we had to keep going back. For some reason, I don't know why. I know we went at least 3 times. The last time I went to the gingerbread house, my mother met a new guy. I remember sitting in the back of the car riding with them. I remember thinking, I hope she didn't tell him what happened. But, he knew because he went to the advocacy center. And I trusted him. My mother's second husband, I trusted this guy. And my grandmother and, my aunts, they were like, you shouldn't be so trusting. You really don't know him. But I saw him as a father. We all did. And then, I don't know why, I guess after that had started happening to me with my mother's first husband, I was standoffish. And I remember being younger and being very active, being very talkative. They used to have to shut me up. But after that happened, I withdrew from everything, everybody. I shut down. From then on, my circle has been very, very small. I can count on one hand how many close friends I have, and they're out of town, My mother's second husband, he started fondling me. He would catch me by myself, and, he called me into the room. He would try to tongue kiss me, and he actually fondled me for a few minutes. I didn't see the pleasure and he got from that. I remember from the age of maybe 10 or 11, because that's when my mom brought him home, to the age of 19 when I came home from college. This man would try to sneak up on me, touch me on my breast, poke me in the center of my breast, and make very flirtatious remarks. And while I'm sleeping, he would sneak into my room, touch me in my private part, and then run off like I didn't see him or feel. So my sister, she tried to tell my mom that he was, messing with her, tried to mess with her. She didn't believe her. My mom actually found out the guy was cheating on her and just out in the open, and she got rid of him, or whatever. But the residual effect, suicidal ideation, writing the letter, thinking about, I never actually went through with it. Slitting my wrist, thinking about slitting my wrist and taking pills, or even into my adulthood years, turning the wheel off the bridge, all of that, overeating, depressed for almost all of my life, up until maybe a year ago. I've gotten Christian counseling, and the counselor that I did talk to, she talked to me about forgiveness, But in our organization, we educate about the importance of counseling, but I've only gone as far as Christian counseling. Counseling in our community is a stigma because it's seen as a sign of weakness. But I'm hearing more and more people tell their stories, or people even close to me. I went to my therapist the other day, and it's becoming a norm to shed light on child sexual abuse. However, how can we prevent it? How can we teach our children to be accountable under the caregivers when the parents are not home? What there are steps to take to do that? There are things to say to the child to do that. How can the child recognize the abuse in another child? I have serious trust issues. It's a fight to brush my teeth. It's a challenge to take a bath because my self-worth is in the floor. It's still in the that. So being a survivor of child sexual abuse, it annihilates your self-worth. So some people I've noticed from my experience and what I've seen, some people will either pull back, hide out, and they're very, very timid. Some people are very promiscuous. You have substance abuse at a very high level, criminal activity, the overeating, the suicidal ideation, the feeling of no self-value. Even if you are accomplishing everything that is at hand, there's still that feeling of no self-worth, or you're not good enough throughout it all. You have the high levels of everything we're not supposed to be. I'll say it like that, because I believe that we all have a purpose here. And some of us are thwarted, or I call it a child interrupt, because we're exposed to things we're not supposed to be exposed to at a day, or we're supposed to experience freedom and innocence without a cost, without the proper help and counsel. See, we listen to people, and we listen to the community tell us that we don't need help, and we don't need therapy, you don't need counselor, you don't need to talk to anybody else about your problem. Don't go out there telling our business. We could either listen to that, because that's where it comes from. The household, your parents and your guardians, don't tell anyone our business. It's just the child bound, because the children are born like children are born so free and so innocent and so expressive. And because a lot of times it happened to them, some type of trauma happened to the adult, then they pass that on. So in our organization, we teach about how the abuse, 90% of the abuse is from people persons that the child and the parent trust with their lives. So we teach, we educate, we use external online resources. The organization is Flowers and Youth Outreach, and we teach and educate the community using external online resources like Darkness to Light. We use RAIN, the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network, and on the Speakers Bureau with them. We use the National Child Trauma Stress Network, and now we're looking into educating about human trafficking. We try to teach the caregivers and the guardians and the parents and the children, have that talk at home with your children. Have that talk that if I ever need to leave you alone with anybody, you tell them, no, my mother says or my father says, I can't be in a room with you by myself with the door closed. I can't do that. Open the door. No, don't touch me in this place. We teach them to recognize where the private parts are. I've seen an example where the predator gave a edible name to the little girl's private part. She went to school. She called that edible name out, and he got looked over. It didn't get attention until later on, but we teach them, this is my private part. These are my lips. Don't touch my lips, and so forth. We have a radio program pending with a few skits for that. Anything we can do. We go out and we speak to schools and colleges. April is the National Sexual Assault Prevention Month. We're very active during that month. We're at women's conferences. I went to ULM on behalf of RAIN, the RAIN Speakers Bureau. Any way that I can be used in the community to speak my voice, I want to do it. I'm not ashamed. And it doesn't hurt as bad. Now, once I'm talking about it more and more and more. But the pain, you never forget how it feels. So what happens is I find myself in relationships that are tormenting, and I'm very passive with them. and it shouldn't be. So I go into the relationship and let people have their way, and I don't say a thing. It's not only dangerous, it's not healthy, it's not safe, it's not self-worth, it's not self-value. And people really don't know how important self-worth is. So a low self-image will have you challenged in the area of taking care of yourself. So you go to the doctor's office and you're overweight because everybody's fat, right? And they look at you and, okay, well, you're this, you're that. That has nothing to do with this or that. And that's what our organization does. We try our best to get the information out there because they don't know. I'm talking about educators. They don't know. Educators don't know. Parents don't know. The guardians, they did not know that 90% of the offenders are people that we trust. So the offender, they'll try to warm up to the parent. Okay, they'll be good friends or whatever with the parent just to get to the child. And my remembrance of the first incident of the child sexual abuse was my mother's first husband. I believe I was grown at the time because I knew exactly what to do. I knew exactly where to go. I knew exactly what position to be in when he got there. When I had the pillowcase over my head, I listened for the footsteps. I had to wait until he finished what he was doing. Well, I didn't tell my mom, and I don't know why I didn't tell her. Well, I remember one time he said that he didn't threaten me, but he kind of dangled a carrot in my face. You know, if you don't, I'm not going to take you to the fair if you tell. So you can't tell, I'm not going to take you here. You can't tell, well, I'm not going to take you there. My mother's first husband, he didn't mess with my sister, but I was the only one that he wanted to sexually abuse. And I remember we were running through the house, me and my sister and brother, and because we loved to play, you know, climb trees or whatever. But we were running through the house and he just pulled me down and he said, well, let me suck on those breasts. And he lifted my shirt up and he just started sucking on my breast, you know, and I couldn't do anything but lie there. I don't know why I didn't say anything. I didn't know if it was forbidden. I knew that was bad at the time, and whatever Dad asked me to do, that's what I did. So after that, my sister and my brother, when they told, I guess they woke up and they saw what he was doing in the back, because we only had one bathroom, so I'm guessing one of them had to use the bathroom, and they came back there, and they told my mother, Dad is messing with Donna. So I don't remember them asking me about it. I mean, that part is just like gone. But I remember the next thing was we moved out of the house. So after that, I just remember going to court, and I didn't even remember even going to jail. I remember when I was older, in my late 20s or 30s, I asked my mom, did he go to jail? She said, yeah, he went to jail. He served time, but he served less than a year. That same guy, he tried to molest, or he was molesting somebody else's daughter, and she stabbed him severely. And I think he died of liver failure or something like that because he was a drinker. Him and my mom used to fight. My mom and her second husband used to fight. So there was a lot of domestic violence in the home as well. A lot of fighting, a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling all the time, a lot of cursing. And it doesn't help when some of the family members become verbally abusive as well. The thing that has been helpful to me is my faith. I am a Christian, I will say that. And it has been my faith, because only at the time that I started to follow the things of God is when I saw a turnaround in my life. And a lot of people don't believe in what they don't see, but you have to believe in something other than yourself and other than other people. There has to be a higher power in your life. There has to be a deity in your life, something that you can believe in, something that gives you that hope. And when I even think about it, I'm encouraged. Other things that's been helpful to me was the literature that I see on these online resources. All of this information that's not being read or not known, it's amazing to me. We used to have these community meetings, and the girls from group homes would come, and we would have a general discussion back and forth. And it's amazing at the information that I received from them. Some things that I didn't know, that they did during counseling and therapy sessions in the conversation. So I did a lot of research of how to get it started, what I needed to do to maintain it. I wanted to get the vision and the mission going to start it off, get the board members, and everything I needed to do to get it started. It was like a breeze. I had no issues at all, and I'm thankful for that. So what we did, I had to develop incentives for the community, So we started with the face-to-face community meeting and offering the counseling referrals, having speakers come in, having therapists come in to reiterate the importance of getting counseling and how to recognize it and ways to prevent it or whatever. So it was kind of difficult getting people into the community meeting. We did everything that we could ever think. We went on the radio. We did everything except go on television to announce it, and no one wanted to hear those things. So that taught me something, So I had to develop another strategy to go out. So that's what we did. So I took an opportunity with the RAIN to become a part of the Speakers Bureau, and they actually solicit speaking opportunities. So I became a member of the Speakers Bureau for RAIN, and they actually solicit speaking opportunities and engagement. So they'll send, even on their website, they have a list of speaking engagements. And if someone wants a speaker to come and speak about a way to prevent sexual abuse, then you can pick the one you want. So I'd say that's it right there. The future program that I have in mind is to fund counseling for those who need it. A lot of places don't take Medicaid, and counseling is not affordable to a lot of people. So that's the next program that we have in the near future, is to start a program to fund counseling sessions for those who need it, and those who can't afford out-of-pocket sessions is what I'm trying to say. They can't afford the expenses. I also became a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate here in Caddo Parish. I needed a deeper perspective of what was going on with these children. And you will be amazed at the abuse and the neglect and how neither parent, in some cases, want the children. I couldn't imagine how the child feels. So the child becomes an overachiever, or they stay to themselves or whatever to fill in that void, that gap, that space. And they have to put on a happy face for the public when deep down they still have this face of neglect. I couldn't imagine if neither one of my parents wanted me. I couldn't imagine that life. I couldn't imagine a life of not being believed and being called a liar by my parents if I told them this man is raping me over and over again. I couldn't imagine boys being molested and then saying the language to their siblings. And I'm like, nobody heard this boy say this? Nobody. Social services, DCFS, is overwhelmed with cases. So the judge appoints a CASA, or court-appointed special advocate, is a volunteer. The supervisors get paid. They work for the company, but we volunteer. The program under the Volunteers for Youth Justice. And I remember hearing about CASA, but I didn't pay any attention to it. But I tell you, I'm a practical nurse here, and I was doing home health where I would go to home visitation. Almost every home I went to had the commercial for CASA. And each home I went to got louder and louder. I was like, God, that's so loud. You got the television up, got a loud, but it was CASA. I was like, oh my goodness, because I wanted a way to know more about the system. What are some real life effects of child sexual abuse? So those are the only cases I take. And I know there are other forms of abuse. I know that. But child sexual abuse is the one that I'm more familiar with and have more experience. So those are the cases that I choose. The children do get separated, and it's very sad. Children get moved from home to home to home. I talk to the children periodically throughout their foster stay, and they'll tell me everything is okay. And then at the breaking point, when something goes wrong, everything just falls to the bottom. It's just all of a sudden. So they end up being moved to another home. And I mean, I had a 6-year-old. He was moved 6 times. Oh my goodness. And other cases moved 3, So they're moved like between 3 to 6 times. And each time they're moved further and further away, because the foster homes out here there is lacking. So they don't do orphanages anymore in Louisiana. They do foster homes, and those they're dwindling. And a lot of homes are very reluctant to take older children. So the judge, he appoints a CASA to go out and follow the child to the school, talk to the counselors, talk to the teachers, the parents. We follow with the parent. If they have addiction issues, we go and talk to their counselors, and their counselors are very open, and I'm grateful for that because they tell everything. So the parent has a year. They're given a case plan. They have a year to get everything back on track so they can get the child. The goal is to reunite the child with family, biological family, but a lot of times that doesn't happen at all. In some cases it do. So I'll say it's about half and half if that happens. The children are reunited with their biological parent, and then the others are with either other family members. They stay with the foster parent, or they're aged out of the system. It's up to the judge to decide if he wants the CASA to remain on the case. DCFS follows the child all the way through, but CASA is optional, but it's all up to the judge. It's for the judge to get the information that DCFS can't get because they have 16 cases, so that's another program. Whatever I can do to help others, I do. I don't know if this is for most women, I don't know, but I always save myself for last. I would rather give to others, but at the end of the day, I'm like out. I'm mentally drained, but as long as I know I did good for someone else, I know it's coming back to me, I know it will. I really believe that. The things that I have used to my advantage to get me to a better place, my faith and the activity to help others and a nonprofit. I'm in a much better place because I remember vividly staying in a world of detachment from reality. So when something didn't go right, I would go into another world in my thought life. I would have a whole nother life. And the residual effect that I had from the child sexual abuse, it's more easier for me to take care of myself. It has become more, the thought are less. And I just come to the point where I don't care what anybody thinks of me, what anybody says of me. I'm just going to move forward. So I'm able to help others freely. I'm able to tell my story on a stage with a microphone in front of a massive number of people freely. And I'm able to answer the questions because I really believe that experience is the best teacher. You can have all those degrees and all those credentials, but without experience, it's a fraction of what you need to help the community, to help survivors of child sexual abuse.